This number keeps changing every time I look at it. Every time I look at the Pentagon, they're asking for a new, larger amount of money. It's so fucked up. It won't fucking stop, dog. It was 67 billion 2 days ago. Now it's fucking 95?
Now, it will be a busy week in the White House with four bills scheduled, or in the House, I should say, with 4 bills scheduled for votes before the summer recess period begins. And that includes a budget resolution, which would give Republican priorities an extra $95 billion. Well, CBS News' Bradley Blackburn has a look at some of those priorities. Bradley, good morning. What are these priorities? What can we expect?
Errol, good morning. We are going to get into all the details here. Great. It is important to note that this is a budget resolution, not a full appropriations package. A budget resolution is a document that lays out the spending priorities for the House and Senate, and is considered...
Most Chinese foreign exchange students in the U.S. do well in math and science, but generally are not that creative. Loss of American humanities will be a detriment to the planet. It's an incentive structure thing, but it is worth remembering that America is legitimately the cultural capital of the world and has been for a while now. Like, the fact that America has so much cultural power is a direct byproduct of our investment in the humanities, you know? Like, you know what country produces an outsized number of STEM graduates? India does. Now, look, India's on the up and up. I'm not pretending that it's not, you know, and I'm not going to transfer my distaste for, like, you know, Indian blue check accounts on Twitter that rage bait for, you know, for money with my general opinion on the country, as much as I am irritated by their, you know, their shenanigans from time to time. But, like, you understand having a country that focuses entirely on STEM outcomes basically just means that universities are job mills where you're trained to be good subservient little bitches, and you get to hold a job until you're like 35, at which point you're replaced by a younger hire who's familiar with, like, I don't know, newer AI models or whatever. Like, the weight and texture and gravitas and longevity of a field is built up not just by, you know, churning out people in a diploma mill, but you need, like, genuine academic experts, which we don't really prioritize or focus on. We treat it all like job mill shit, you know. The Chinese come over, they do well in our universities, they do great, they get a good tech job, and they send over remittances, they send back a lot of money, which, you know, great. Like, I understand they're just trying to better their lives, but overall, like, universities, the institution of the university, the cultural center for learning, the, like, birthplace of ingenuity is gone. It's dead. It has not been a thing for at least decades. I would say, I know that at least for the past 20 years it has been dead, probably going back further. I know to an extent back in the 1960s it was a real thing. I don't know. I got a STEM master's with a lot of Indian classmates. Did you know the colleges down there assign them a job after graduation? Yeah, I mean, it is the long-term goal of capitalism to lower everything down to the pursuit of money. No culture except what you can sell, no art except what you can sell. Everything is just a job, everything is income. That's it, you know? That's the goal here. It's not as though India doesn't have culture. It's like a fucking 5,000-year-old subcontinent of mixed with like 5 billion different languages and ethnic groups. It's an unbelievably culturally rich place, but you wouldn't know it if you went to their universities, right? Because that's not the point. It's that the point is the job milling, you know? More diverse than Europe, arguably, objectively. India alone has a greater population than Europe and absolutely has more cultural diversity. That's like objectively measurable. Yeah. India is an unfathomably complicated... It really shouldn't be one country. Europe should not be one country. Europe should be like... Oh, sorry, not Europe. India should be like 20 countries. But we need to do the partition again. This will fix India. The partitioning between India and Pakistan... we just need to do it 20 more times, and then finally it'll be okay. More partitions. We need to balkanize India.
Step 2 of the funding process. It is not a final appropriations bill, which gets signed by the president and actually funds the government. The Congressional Appropriations Committees use the resolution as a blueprint to draft the individual spending bills that could eventually become law. This $95 billion budget resolution centers on 4 main priorities: $60 billion for the Pentagon, $13 billion for the intelligence community, $12 billion in farm assistance and $10 billion for election-related actions, which include grants for states adopting the Trump administration's requested strict voter ID laws. The money for the Defense Department is expected to go towards shoring up the military stockpiles, which have been depleted from fighting the war with Iran.
Yep, we're gonna buy 3 more missiles. They'll be ready by 2028.
But the $60 billion is significantly less than the Pentagon's original $350 billion request from earlier this year, Errol.
Okay, Bradley, what about on the Democrats' side of things?
Well, the Democrats have proposed 14 different resolutions, Errol, 14 amendments, all of which were defeated. Their proposals included a rollback of Republican changes to nutrition assistance, energy programs, and the Affordable Care Act. They also wanted more regulations for federal immigration officers to stop funding for the White House ballroom and to ban any taxpayer dollars going to Capitol riot participants. The House is now facing a pretty tough deadline to pass this measure and 3 other bills that are scheduled for votes.
Not likely to happen. A lot of this is not likely to happen. The Pentagon every month. Yup, another failed audit. Too many trucks, too many zeros. Army audit drive exposes flaws as Pentagon nears 2028 goal. You know what I blame for this? Maybe this is me being an idiot, but genuinely, like, the way people talked about how expensive the Iraq war was, I really thought that money went nowhere. I really wish the framing, by when I thought, I meant like at the time, when I was younger, like in high school or early college, when people said like, well, the Iraq war cost this many trillions, in my mind it was like, oh, that money just went away, like it was money that went to the government and then when it went away. It wasn't. It was a gift from the Pentagon, from the American government to the corporations we paid to fight the war. It's not like all that money went to troops' salaries. I mean, some portion of it went to the the thousands and thousands of contractors that we paid. It was a gift to them. They wanted the war and we gave them money. It was just a government subsidy. Almost all government programs that are public-private partnerships are government subsidies. Like that is the point of them. The government exists there so that it can manufacture a political pretext to justify unbelievable amounts of money going to a private company. It's not like the military industrial complex can sell to other like customers, right? If you build missiles in America, you have one place to sell those to. If America lets you, maybe you can sell to France or England or whatever, but by default, you have a customer base of one, right? It's a what is it called? An oligopoly or a monogopoly? There's one customer, right? So the only thing that really made sense from the perspective, monopsony, that was it, monopsony, thank you. Not a monopoly, the opposite of a monopoly. Not one provider, but one consumer, a monopsony. So the only thing that really made sense economically from the perspective of companies like Raytheon was you have to make sure that America is always willing to buy. You need to take over the American government. You need to influence American policymakers' decision-making enough that they are always a good customer. Like, you know that if America stopped funding the Pentagon, if America like really cut back on military spending, a whole bunch of our national security vital defense industry contractors would go bankrupt, right? It's not like they're stockpiling that money in a bank account or whatever. You know that shit's all getting thrown over to the shareholders. Well, maybe they should. Are you suggesting that national defense should be handled by the nation and not by 1,000 corporations in a trench coat that inflate the cost of everything that we contract them for? That's crazy. You sound insane. You sound like a communist. They would go to foreign adversaries, don't be naive. Hey, nobody pays like we pay. Nobody else can even come close. You think Lockheed has any other place it can go to get the kinds of insane returns on investment that it gets here in America? Fucking, what was the company? Was it Northrop Grumman? What was the company that we paid like $500 million to build ammunition parts, and 2 years later they haven't produced a single one? What was the company? It's one of the biggest defense companies in the world, and we gave them $500 million so that they would build parts for our artillery, like our 133 millimeter artillery shells, General Dynamics, and they just didn't produce anything. They just straight up took the money and ran. Look at this. Oh, 155, not 133, sorry. Defense Watchdog finds, by the way, Defense Watchdog finds new 155 millimeter artillery plant failed to produce parts in 2 years since it was built, hindering production goals. We relied on General Dynamics to produce these as part of our rearmament, and they just didn't do it. 500 million, nothing is happening. Now, in the traditional framing, if this was like framed, why doesn't the US just buy the MIC companies? Why would they? The point of the government is to funnel money to the private companies. Why would they buy the companies? Then there's no longer any private ownership. It's like structural functionalism, right? The purpose of a system is its outcome. That's not necessarily structural functionalism, but they're at least somewhat related concepts. The purpose of a system is its outcome. The purpose of this system, the purpose of the military-industrial complex, is to give money to private businessmen. That is the only reason it exists. That is why all of this shit has happened. It's the only reason for everything. I just wish, like, because the framing, if I saw this article back in 2008, the framing I would have heard and the framing that I would have believed would have been, oh, the Pentagon made a mistake. No, they didn't. The Pentagon has always been aware of this. How do you not realize for 2 years that a factory you gave 500 million to produce the artillery parts for aren't producing them? The Pentagon knew this. They don't care because the point is to give money to private industry. That's the point. So the framing that I think people want here is this was a mistake. The truth is it wasn't. The system is functioning as intended. Like, the Defense Department Inspector General reporting on this was a mistake on his part. There will probably be political consequences for it. The person who discovered this gave the game away. This is how it's supposed to work. Capital interest absorbs everything, even the interest in national defense. That's not relevant to this one here, though, Uves. This has nothing to do. The production of 155 millimeter artillery shells has nothing to do with tooling or qualified engineers or whatever else. It's just straight up they took the money and ran, you know? This particular situation was the result of people fucking up and thinking they could just reuse old equipment from an existing plant with some minor adjustments, which turned out to be not possible to do. Yes, but my thesis here is that they knew it wouldn't work and they didn't care because there are no consequences. Think of it from an incentives perspective. Why should General Dynamic Ordnance and Tactical Systems, why should General Dynamics care? There are no legal consequences here for fraud. This is fraud. We paid them 500 million and they've done nothing with it. Like, that's in literally any other industry, in any interaction between governments, private organizations, or between private organizations, this would immediately lead to a lawsuit. Considering the fact that this is relevant to national defense, it would, yeah, because they can get away with more here in America, Masaigo. I fundamentally disagree with your argument here. The idea that this is just a genuine mistake. How many mistakes do they have to pile up, all of which go in the same direction? You'll notice the MIC only makes mistakes that make them money. Sorry, mistakes. They knew they could get away with it here in America because America is a fucking dumpster fire that allows private capital to get away with anything that it wants to do. Absolutely anything. Them getting away with it is the malicious act, not the original error. Don't you think the fact that they knew they were going to get away with it might have contributed to their willingness to commit the error? Like, don't you think that this grievous error, which compromises American military goals, which in a normal country would lead to people being arrested and put in fucking jail, don't you think their willingness to commit that error might have been in some way influenced by the fact that they knew there would be no consequences for it? That, then, is the malicious act. If you act fraudulently, knowing you won't get in trouble for it, I consider that part of the malicious act. You should never assume incompetence. These people know what they're doing. If they didn't know what they were doing, it wouldn't be the case that them getting more money is the outcome of every single one of their mistakes. It's the point they just don't care. Like, everyone could die, they don't care. they don't. Have you seen climate change, man? They don't care if everyone. This is not an outcomes-oriented system. The only outcome they care about is that you generate shareholder revenue. That's it. As long as the shareholder revenue is being consistently generated, that is literally it. The world could end and they would be fine with it. We know this because of climate change. Speaking of, yikes! Who linked this? I said that multiple times, Resender. Multiple times. Isn't the worth of money itself contingent upon this? Yeah, they don't care. They're inventing new colors here, dog. I thought white was as high as it went. Now we're getting like hot pink. Here, 1 second. I'm going to pee real quick, and then Ben's going to come on and yell at you guys to do phone banking again. Okay, just 1 sec.